Don't come to my wedding. You're no longer family. That was the message my daughter sent me, cutting me out for the sake of her soon-to-be in-law's money. I replied with 2 words, I understand. Inside, my heart fractured under the weight of her betrayal. So I made a single phone call. A day later, I had 83 missed calls from her and her new family. They were frantic pleading for me to stop. But by then, it was far too late. Before I continue, make sure to subscribe and drop a comment with where you're tuning in from. Dad, I need $35,000 for the wedding. Emily's voice sliced through the evening quiet before she'd even taken off her designer coat. This is the most important day of my life. I lowered the newspaper, my reading glasses slipping halfway down my nose. There she stood at the door, car keys jingling in her perfectly manicured hand, already moving toward my desk. Sweetheart, why don't you sit, and we'll talk this through. There's nothing to discuss, she snapped, spinning on her heels, the sound of them echoing against the wooden floor. The Thompsons have already made their payments. Venue, flowers, photographer, it's all taken care of. I just need you to pay your share. I folded the paper gently. $35,000 is nearly 25% of what I've saved for retirement. Emily, I can give you $8,000. That's the most I can manage on a fixed pension. Her expression darkened, as though I'd insulted her. 8,000. That's a joke. I got up, walked to my desk, and pulled out my bank statements. They were black and white proof of everything I had left after medical expenses and funeral costs for her mother. Look, sweetheart, this is what's left. Don't bring Mom into this, she snapped, swiping the papers from my hands. They scattered across the coffee table, landing among framed photos from better days when we were still a family. The Thompsons said a real father would find a way. Richard remortgaged his house for his son's wedding. Margaret sold heirloom jewelry. Well, I'm not Richard Thompson. No, you're not, she fired back, her voice strained with resentment. You're fine living in this tiny house with your tiny pension and tiny life. I knelt to retrieve the scattered papers. One of them was a photo of my wife, the woman who taught Emily about compassion and family. The woman who passed away believing our daughter would care for me in my final years. That dress alone costs more than what you're offering, Emily added, standing over me now. Do you know how humiliating it is when people ask what my dad's contributing? When I have to say that he used to be someone, but now he's just... She hesitated briefly. Just a failure. The Thompsons are right. Her words lingered like ash in the air. I stayed there, crouched by the coffee table, her mother's photo in one hand and financial statements in the other. I see, I said softly, more calmly than I expected. And what do you think your mother would say about all of this? She grabbed her purse off the chair. She'd want me to be happy. She'd want me to have the wedding I deserve. Would she? But Emily was already at the door. You have a week? Dad, find the money. I'm not changing my mind. The door slammed behind her. Through the window, I watched her drive away. In the BMW the Thompsons gifted her as an engagement present. I stayed kneeling, still holding the photograph. Margaret's face seemed different now, somber, as though she, too, had heard what our daughter had said. The house fell into a heavy silence. Bank papers lay round me like fallen autumn leaves. Tangible proof of a simple life, honestly lived. $8,000. An hour earlier. It had felt generous. I placed Margaret's photo back on the mantel and straightened it carefully. Then I collected the documents and stacked them neatly on my desk. $35,000. The Thompsons were right about one thing. I wasn't the type of father who could cut that kind of check. But maybe it was time they found out what kind of father I really was. The coffee had long gone cold as I stared at my phone. Morning sunlight spilled through the kitchen window. A Facebook alert had popped up. Emily Martin Thompson shared a post. My thumb hovered. Since her mother's funeral. We'd barely spoken on social media, but I never unfriended her just her. Father clinging to hope. I tapped it. Finally found real parents. Thank you, Richard and Margaret, for making my dreams possible. Blessed to have a new family. Wedding prep in full swing. The words landed like a blow. Real parents. My coffee mug slipped from my fingers, clattering against the table. 3 images slowly loaded on my old phone. Emily, smiling in a luxury bridal boutique. White silk and mirrors surrounding her. Margaret behind her, adjusting a veil, both of them glowing. Richard nearby, platinum credit card in hand at checkout. 53 comments. The likes climbing. Such lucky parents. Your new family is amazing. The Thompsons are angels. I kept scrolling, each comment carving a little deeper. Not one mention of me. Not a single nod to the father who raised her for 28 years, soothed her fears, funded her education, helped her through her mother's passing. Real parents. Then who was I all those years? My fingers trembled as I took screenshots of the post, the images, the entire thread. Old banking instincts kicked in. Document everything. I made a new folder on my laptop. Emily evidence. The analyst in me got to work. Even as the father in me bled. The gown alone cost more than my monthly pension. The boutique looked like a showroom. Chandeliers, marble, designer luxury. Emily's joy was undeniable. She embraced Margaret the way she never embraced me. But it was the third photo that shattered me. A family portrait without me, Richard's. Hand rested proudly on her shoulder. Margaret held her hands nurturing and affectionate. Emily between them, glowing with happiness I hadn't seen in years. They looked complete without me. I refreshed the page. Now 67 comments. Likes climbing. My daughter's rejection of me applauded by strangers. The house felt smaller. Walls covered with family photos that suddenly felt obsolete. A wedding. Emily's birth. Vacations, holidays, all undone by a Facebook post and 3 carefully arranged images. My phone buzzed. A message from Emily. Dad, did you see my post? The Thompsons wanted me to share how thankful I am for real support. Still waiting on your answer about the money. To us blurred by in a loop of reading, rereading, and saving comments. Over 200 likes now. Nearly 100 comments. Everyone celebrating. Her new family. Each notification another small round. Another buzz. Emily again. I stared at it before opening. Don't come to my wedding. You're not family anymore. This time. It hit differently. Not just public humiliation. This was a death sentence. Final. Irrevocable. I read it 3 times. Each time, it became more real. 20-8 years of being her dad erased in a single message. The little girl I taught to ride a bike. Walked to school, hugged through nightmares, gone. My hands shook as I tried to reply. Typed, deleted, tried. Again. Deleted again. Emily, please, let's fix this. Delete. How could you say that to me? Delete after everything I gave up for you. Delete finally. I sent 2 words. I understand. Message read. No reply. She had moved on, busy planning her future with her real parents. I walked unsteadily into the living room. The photo albums still sat on the bottom shelf where they'd stayed since Margaret's funeral. I pulled out the first one. Our wedding. Margaret in lace. Me in a rented tux to big at the shoulders. We looked so young, so full of dreams. She made me promise that day. Protect our future children. Always be a father they could count on. I turned the page. Emily. Just born, tiny fists cold near her face. Me, Holding her with wide-eyed awe in the hospital chair, Margaret used to laugh that I counted Emily's fingers and toes at least 50 times. Next page. Emily's first steps between us. First day of school, giant backpack, tiny pigtails, birthday, parties I spent weeks prepping for, Christmas mornings when she'd shake us awake at dawn, plays where she'd scan the crowd from me and wave. Graduation day, her tight hug, college move-in, where she cried and made me promise to call every week. When did it all shift? When did I become optional? I closed the album. Outside, neighbors went about their Saturday routines. Walking dogs, checking mail, washing cars, families, living their ordinary lives. My phone stayed quiet. Emily wasn't coming back. The Thompsons had won. But sitting in that room filled with decades of memories, something inside me changed. The hurt stayed raw and aching, but a colder, sharper resolve joined it. A part of me I hadn't felt since my banking days. "All right, Emily," I whispered to the empty room. "Let's see how real your new parents really are." Hours passed in silent calculation, I said. In my home office, the same one where I'd managed business for 3 decades, the familiar space triggered my old instincts. The side of me that spotted fraud others missed. My old address book lay open. Its pages yellowed with time. Stephen Clark, private investigator. I jotted down his number 5 years ago after he left the bank to start his firm. "Call if you ever need anything." He'd said at his farewell. I found the card tucked neatly. Between the pages, grey, black lettering. Simple, professional. Stephen had always been precise, the kind of man who uncovered what others couldn't. I dialed Stephen Clark Investigations. "Stephen, it's Bob Martin." A pause. "Bob, from First National." "That's right." "Well, this is a surprise. What can I do for you?" I leaned back in my chair. "I need a full background report on Richard and Margaret Thompson. Spoken area." A longer pause this time. "Everything okay?" "Bob, this doesn't sound like you. Let's just say I'm vetting some new relatives." "Got it." His voice shifted to professional mode. "How deep are we going?" "Everything. Financials, business dealings, property, lawsuits. They own Thompson's fine dining downtown. I want the full picture. That's comprehensive. Normally I charge $3,000 for something like that. But for you, let's say $2,000 upfront, rest upon delivery. $2,000, the same amount I'd offered Emily. Somehow, it felt fitting. That works. What do you need from me? Names, addresses, business info, anything you've got. I'll start with public records, corporate filings, tax liens, anything in the system. Are you looking for something in particular?" My mind went to Emily's BMW, that pricey bridal boutique, the casual way Richard had flashed his platinum credit card. What really caught my attention was their financial behavior, how they generated income. Whether it was all above board, I was after a thorough analysis. Cash flow, supply links, tax filings, exactly. The language of finance came easily. This was my comfort zone, tracking money, identifying red flags. "I'll email you my contract and payment details tonight. You can expect a preliminary summary by next Friday. With the full report the week after." "Great." I flipped open my laptop and checked my bank balance. $2,000 wouldn't make a noticeable dent in my savings, and if Stephen confirmed what I was beginning to suspect, it'd be worth every cent. "Bob, can I ask what sparked all this? You sound different." I glanced at a framed photo on my desk. Emily's high school graduation. Both of us smiling. Now it felt like I was looking at strangers. Sometimes, Stephen, you find out people aren't who you thought they were, and sometimes you have to find out who they really are. Fair enough. I'll be in touch soon." The call ended. I put the phone down and opened my inbox, waiting for Stephen's agreement. For the first time since Emily stopped by yesterday, I felt something beyond heartache. I felt focused. My phone buzzed. A new text from Emily. 3 days of silence had an odd effect. My screen showed 83 missed calls. I've been keeping meticulous notes in my old banking ledger. Emily had called 17 times the first day, 15 the next, and 15 more today. Richard Thompson had rung 23 times, each voicemail growing shorter, more demanding. Even Jason had tried 13 times. His voice increasingly awkward as he tried to navigate a situation he clearly didn't grasp. The first day started with curiosity. Emily's first voicemail came in at 7 o'clock a.m. "Dad, maybe I was too harsh yesterday. Let's talk about this properly. Call me when you can." Her voice was probing, testing, still tinged with entitlement but laced with uncertainty. By that evening, she'd tried calling 6 more times. Day to brought irritation. Richard's booming voice came through my speaker as I sipped my morning coffee. "Mr. Martin, let's talk man to man. This silent treatment isn't doing anyone any good." Emily's upset, and frankly, so are we. That day saw 27 calls. I spent the afternoon mowing the lawn while my phone vibrated on the kitchen counter. Silent, but relentless. Each buzz felt like a win. Today felt different. Desperation had entered their tone. Emily's last message came in an hour ago. While I was picking up groceries. "Dad, please call me. I want you at the wedding. I'm sorry." "Okay. Really, truly sorry. We can fix this. The Thompsons. Maybe we all said things we didn't mean." Her voice cracked on that last line. At the kitchen table, I sat with the ledger open, logging each call like I used to log financial audits. Time received, call duration, emotional tone. The pattern stood out. Morning calls, hopeful, afternoon, frustration, evenings, full-on panic. What fascinated me most was how fast they folded. 3 days. Just 72 hours of silence. And the same daughter who once called me a failure was now pleading. The house had never been quieter. I'd finished 2 novels, reorganized every closet, and cooked all my meals undisturbed. The phone remained on silent. Notifications stacking like snowdrifts on glass. Sometimes, during commercial breaks, I'd count them. Richard's calls had a rhythm, confident at first, then escalating into thinly veiled rage. His polished image was fraying. Yesterday's voicemail, 30 seconds long. "We're trying to be civil here, Martin, but this childish behavior has to stop." Jason's attempts were just said. Clearly coached by Emily, nudged by his parents. His messages grew briefer as discomfort took over. "Hi, Mr. Martin. Emily asked me to. Could you please call her? She's really worried." My laptop spreadsheet illustrated the trend perfectly. Day 1, confusion. Day 2, frustration. Day 3, full-blown panic. Every phase documented with the precision I once brought to quarterly financial reports. My wife's photo watched from the mantel as I worked. Margaret would have been intrigued by this unfolding psychological match. She'd always told me I was too lenient with Emily, too quick to yield. Sometimes she'd whisper during one of Emily's adolescent meltdowns, "The best reaction is no reaction." 3 days ago, I was the one desperate, pleading with Emily, offering what little I had. Now the script had flipped entirely. They needed something from me. Recognition, forgiveness, or just proof I still existed in their world. Stephen's preliminary report was due tomorrow, but frankly, I was beginning to think I might not even need it. Emily was unraveling on her own. Another buzz, Emily again. Call number 48. This time, I almost smiled. Riverside Coffee was mostly empty for a Tuesday afternoon. Exactly the kind of setting I'd hoped for. Stephen sat at a quiet table in the corner, briefcase at his side. Every bit the professional. Bob, I've got something very interesting for you. I took the seat across from him, notebook open. Hope it justifies the cost. Stephen popped open the briefcase and slid out a thick manila folder. Oh, it's worth it, Bob. They've evaded at least $400,000 in taxes over the last 3 years. That number sat between us. $400,000 compared to that. The wedding budget was a footnote. Go on. Richard and Margaret Thompson are laundering money through their restaurant. He pushed the first page toward me. Check this. Monthly deposits from catering services that don't exist. I pulled out my glasses and examined the document. Crisp bank statements. Clearly sourced through legal channels. $53,000 deposited. March 3rd from Heritage Wedding Catering. $47,000 on February 15th from Platinum Events Catering. I called each of these, Stephen said. Half are made up. The rest say they've never worked with the Thompsons. My training clicked in. What's their reported income compared to their actual lifestyle, officially? The restaurant earns $80,000 a year. He handed over property records, but they bought at $2.30. Million home last year. Monthly car payments on a BMW alone exceed their entire stated income. And those country club dues, more than most families make in a year. I flip through page after page. Minimal earnings on tax returns, but the bank statements told a different story. Large, steady deposits. The contrast was damning. The restaurant barely breaks even. Stephen said, everything else, fake catering gigs, padded invoices, and cash from unknown sources. You've mapped it all out. 3 years of data. Here's the timeline. He laid out statements in chronological order. At first, $5,000 here, $8,000 there. By last year, $60,000 a month in fabricated transactions. Each document told a story, and I read them fluently. Structured deposits clearly designed to dodge reporting thresholds. Invoices dated outside actual. Event schedules, clients with disconnected numbers. They're not just cheating the IRS, I said. This scale points to laundering for other people, too. Exactly. Stephen nodded. Old banking instincts still sharp. That's how they can bankroll Emily's wedding. It's not even their money. I placed the papers down and leaned back. Emily had chosen criminals over me, people whose lavish generosity came from deceit. The irony stung. How strong is this evidence? Strong enough for the IRS, the state, and likely federal prosecutors. All sourced through public records and legal inquiries. Court admissible. Stephen handed me another folder. There's more if you want it. Personal accounts. I can map the transfers. Just need another week. Do it. I didn't even blink. Cost no longer mattered. As Stephen packed his files, I jotted notes in my ledger. Account numbers, dates, amounts. The same careful documentation that had built my banking career would now dismantle Emily's new family. Bob, what are you planning to do with this? I closed my notebook and looked across the cafe. People living honestly, paying their dues, unlike the Thompsons, who'd bought my daughter's affection with stolen funds. I'm going to make sure the right people see this, Stephen, and your family. Some bonds deserve a second look. Stephen nodded. He understood. He'd given me exactly what I needed. Proof that Emily's real parents were criminals. My phone buzzed again. Emily. Call number 49. This time, I picked up. Robert. Welcome to our humble spot. Humble. This place probably costs more than my entire home. Margaret stayed seated, extending her hand like a queen. We're thrilled you could make it. Emily's been so stressed about this whole family situation. I took the offered chair, noting the prime placement ideal for keeping an eye on the entire floor. A perfect vantage point to study the operation. Well, we can't have Emily anxious. This is her moment. Exactly. Richard motioned for the waiter. Only the finest for our girl. Care for some wine. I've got a 2018 Bordeaux that'll change your life. A $200 bottle of wine. I nodded politely, mentally calculating how many phony receipts it would take to fund this kind of extravagance. Emily lit up as Richard handled the orders. Margaret dove right into wedding plans, each detail pricier than the last. The flowers alone are 12 grand, she said offhandedly. But Emily deserves only the best. She certainly does, I replied, watching a man at the next table hand off an envelope to a woman who slipped it into her purse without even glancing at it. No receipt, no trace. Classic lying. Of course, Richard leaned back comfortably. We understand your constraints, fixed income, modest retirement. That's why we stepped in. Emily needed real backing. Real backing from criminals. I appreciate your help. Emily's always dreamed of the good life, and she's getting it. Margaret spoke with that tone wealthy women reserved for charity cases. We can offer her things others simply can't. I sipped the overpriced wine, watching staff swap papers at tables round the room. Cash was discreetly passed. Envelopes vanished, and the Thompsons oversaw everything with effortless command. Business looks solid, I observed. Exceptional, Richard puffed out his chest. We've expanded catering, private events. The profit margins are phenomenal. Because you don't report half of it, I thought, snapping a discreet photo of an invoice left behind someone at a nearby table. Heritage Wedding Catering, one of Stephen's ghost companies. Emily chattered on about the honeymoon as I kept logging evidence. A wad of bills disappeared into a server's apron. A businessman settled his tab with several credit cards and an envelope stuffed with cash. Robert, Margaret said suddenly, we want you to understand that Emily is truly family now, our daughter in every sense that matters. You've been good to her. Good. Richard chuckled. We've given her a future. Country, club access, social circles, career doors we've opened. That's something a pension just can't provide. The arrogance was staggering. Two fraudsters lecturing me about how to support my daughter with stolen money. You're right, I said, voice low. I couldn't give her what you can. Emily squeezed my hand, glowing with joy. If only she knew she was basking in the glow. Of felons, Richard regaled us with tales from his business, each story exposing deeper layers of corruption. Ghost workers, padded expenses, cash-only clients paying for services that didn't exist. The trick, Richard said with a wink, is knowing how to handle cash flow, maximize profits, minimize expenses and taxes. He meant. My phone vibrated as I captured another transaction. Stephen. Probably checking in with updates. Emily mentioned the wedding's happening at your private venue. Our pride and joy. Margaret said, gesturing behind her, seats 300, full catering kitchen. We've hosted senators, judges, big names dining inside a criminal operation. I'd love to see it sometime. You absolutely should. We'd love to have you again, really spend time together. More chances to observe their empire. I'd like that very much. As dessert arrived, I counted 17 suspect exchanges. This wasn't a restaurant, it was a laundering facility disguised as upscale dining. Emily leaned against me, tipsy and sentimental. I'm so happy we're a real family now. Family, if only she knew. Richard lifted his glass. To family, fresh starts and understanding what truly matters. I raised mine to meet his, to getting exactly what we deserved. The next week unfolded with careful, deliberate preparation. I'd cleared off my dining table and turned it into a command center. Stevens. Reports sat in orderly stacks next to my own photos from the restaurant. Everything filed with the same precision I once gave to quarterly audits. Stephen arrived Tuesday morning with his final analysis. A thick envelope that felt as weighty as its implications. Bob. This is enough to lock them up for at least 5 years. I opened the folder, scanning page after page bank statements, fake receipts, doctored tax returns. All of it thorough, all of it damning. I don't want them behind boss. Stephen, I want Emily to see the truth. He arched an eyebrow. Not the response I was expecting. Prisons to neat. 2 out of sight. I set the folder down. Emily chose them over me for their money. She needs to understand where that money comes from. Stephen packed up his briefcase. Our business concluded. I walked him out and returned to my war room. The next 3 days passed in a blur of focused effort. I digitized everything, made multiple backup copies across 3 devices. The banker in me demanded redundancy. If one failed, the others would. Hold. Thursday morning, I composed my complaint to the IRS. 12 pages of well-supported accusations, with photos and financial documentation. I'd written hundreds like it in my career, never with this much personal satisfaction. Richard and Margaret Thompson have orchestrated a long-term tax evasion scheme through fabricated records and loaned. Earring. Attached. Evidence of over $100,000 in unreported earnings across 3 years. I printed 3 sets, sealed each in its own envelope, one to the IRS, one to the State Revenue Office, and one to the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, a full-scale offensive, coming from every angle. But federal cases take time to unfold. Emily's wedding was just 5 days away. Friday night, I prepared a unique gift leather binder holding every piece of incriminating proof, ranged in a clear timeline. Bank reports, fake invoices, restaurant snapshots, tax forms, an undeniable portrait of their criminal world. On the cover page, a handwritten note, so you can know who your real parents are, love. Dad, Saturday. I drove to 3 separate post offices, mailing the federal complaints from different locations, anonymous tips that would set the wheels in motion. By the time the Thompsons realized what hit them, their financial foray would already be under fire. Sunday morning, Emily called. Dad, I'm so happy you'll be there Tuesday. Margaret's planning something sweet, a speech about family, and how grateful they are to include you. Margaret Thompson giving a speech about family values while laundering money. The irony couldn't be better. That sounds wonderful, sweetheart and Dad. I know I've been harsh before, but after that dinner, I realized we really can be one. Big family. The Thompsons really care about making you feel welcome. I'm looking forward to it. After we hung up, I turned back to my dining table. The portfolio was ready, just waiting for the perfect moment. Emily's big day would be the Thompsons' reckoning. Opened my laptop and scheduled one final email, set to send automatically unless I cancelled within 72 hours, my safety net. A full evidence summary addressed to a local investigative journalist. Subject line: Local restaurant owner's multi-million-dollar tax fraud scheme. Monday came and went in quiet anticipation. I pressed my best suit, shined my shoes, and gave the binder one last review. Everything was airtight, chronological, comprehensive, irrefutable. That night, as I got ready for bed, Emily texted, "See you tomorrow. Dad, I'm so happy you'll be part of our celebration." I set the phone down and looked at the portfolio on my dresser. Tomorrow, Emily would find out exactly what. kind of family she'd chosen. Tomorrow, the Thompsons would finally get what they had coming. The ceremony venue shimmered with white roses and crystal chandeliers. $12,000 in floral arrangements, more than I'd ever been able to offer Emily for the entire wedding. The space was flawless, sophisticated, lavish, everything money was supposed to buy. Emily appeared at the entrance, glowing in silk and lace. Her eyes lit up the second she spotted me. "Dad, you made it." She rushed toward me, her gown whispering like fine parchment behind her. Margaret Thompson directed the photographers with the calm command of someone who'd footed every. "Bill, I brought something for you," I said, slipping a hand into my jacket. The envelope felt warm in my grasp. "A little something for your wedding. Make sure you read it tonight." When you can really take it in. Emily accepted the envelope, her gaze full of curiosity. "What is it?" "Something meaningful. It'll help you understand the family you've just married into." She hugged me, the envelope still in hand. "Thank you for coming. Dad, it means so much to have you accept the Thompsons." I watched her slip the envelope into her bridal bag, placing it next to her lipstick and tissues. So small, yet so full of dynamite. Guests were beginning to arrive, about 200, dressed in elegance, all here to bask in the Thompson generosity. I recognized several from the restaurant. Business associates, some of whom likely helped launder money without even realizing it. Richard Thompson appeared beside me, sharp in his custom tux. "Robert, Emily looks stunning." "Doesn't she?" "She truly does. No expense spared today." "Only the finest for our daughter." He gestured toward the lavish decor. "This probably cost more than most folks earn in a year, but she deserves nothing less. All of it paid for with dirty money." Margaret approached us, dripping in diamonds. "Robert, you're in the third row, with the family. We wanted to make sure you had a great view of Emily." Third row behind the Thompson relatives and their business partners, the father of the bride, given the role of distinguished spectator. Music began to play. I took my seat, noting how perfectly they'd staged everything to flaunt their status. They sat in the front row like royalty, graciously receiving compliments on their supposed generosity. "What a gorgeous ceremony," whispered the woman beside me. "The Thompsons have been so good to that girl." Emily appeared at the back of the room, radiant with joy. There'd be no walk down the aisle with her father. Richard had claimed the privilege to, escorting her like the man responsible for the day. I watched her glide forward on the arm of a tax dodger, her face lit up with happiness. The ceremony kicked off with grand readings on love and family values. Margaret dabbed her eyes with silk, playing the emotional mother role. Richard beamed like a proud patriarch, nodding as guests thanked him in hushed voices. "They've been like real parents to her." Someone behind me murmured, "So generous." I smiled politely, playing my assigned role, grateful father, appreciative of the Thompsons' kindness. Jason said his vows, voice trembling. Emily replied, teary-eyed, thanking the Thompsons for making her dreams real. The photographer captured it all. The wealth, the emotion, the staged triumph. A perfect showcase of their victory over the modest bank auditor who couldn't afford grandeur. The ceremony ended with applause as rice and petals filled the air. Emily clutched a bridal bag tighter, the envelope still inside. Margaret approached, all charm. "Robert, we're so glad you came. It wouldn't have been complete without her father. Thank you for including me. We're family now. Let's have you over for a dinner and talk business. Share our success. You might find it enlightening. Very enlightening." I replied. "I'd like that." The receiving line formed. I watched Emily greet well wishes, hand never far from her bag. Every so often, she'd touch it gently, reassured by its presence. In 6 hours, she'd open that envelope, Inside, she'd find the truth about tax fraud, money laundering, and what the Thompsons truly stood for. They posed for photos, wrapped round her like proud parents. Flashbulbs immortalized their moment of triumph. I glanced at my watch. Only hours left before the truth shattered their facade. The envelope waited, ticking like a hidden explosive. The Davenport Grand Ballroom sparkled with crystals and candlelight. Emily and Jason sat at the head table, surrounded by wrapped gifts, for hours into the reception dinner. Speeches, dancing every moment flawlessly managed by the Thompsons. I sat at my assigned table and saw Emily reach into her bag. She pulled out the envelope, stark white against her silk gloves. "What's this, Dad?" She called out. "Open it, sweetheart. It's something important." She carefully broke the seal and unfolded the cover letter. It read simply, "Dear daughter, meet your real parents." Her smile vanished. She turned to the enclosed documents, bank records, tax filings, and deniable proof of the Thompsons' crimes. Her face drained of color. "Emily." Jason leaned in, concerned. She handed him the letter and spread the documents across the white tablecloth. Unreported income, fake catering invoices, fraudulent tax claims evidence laid bare. Margaret was the first to notice. "Emily, darling, what's wrong?" Emily looked up, shaking, papers in hand. "Is this true? Have you really been stealing money?" A hush fell over the room. Guests turned toward the head table. Sensing something had shifted, Richard stood, abruptly, face flushing. "Lies. Your father's just bitter we gave you a better life than he could." Bitter. I stood and walked slowly toward them. All eyes followed. "No, Richard. I just wanted my daughter to know the truth about her new family." Margaret lunged for the papers, but too late. Guests nearby had already seen them. Phones began to flash. $400,000 in tax evasion. I said loudly. "Money laundered through fake catering companies. Emily, your wedding was funded with stolen money." She stared at the papers, then at them, then back. At the damning evidence, the venue, the flowers, everything. All of it, I confirmed. Paid for with criminal profits. Richard's face turned purple. "You're just a spiteful old man. Ruining your daughter's day. I'm saving her from thieves." The room buzzed with whispers. Guests took photos of Emily's trembling hands holding the papers. The scandal was unfolding live. Margaret scrambled to contain the damage. "This is a misunderstanding. The IRS doesn't think so." I cut in. "I filed formal complaints 3 days ago. A federal investigation begins Monday." Emily dropped the papers, burying her face in her hands. "All this time, all your gifts, it was all stolen, Emily." "Listen," Richard tried. "I get it now." Her voice was hollow. "You bought me with other people's money." The photographer kept snapping. Margaret's panic, Emily's heartbreak. The documents captured in full detail. Guests stood. Some edged closer, others stepped back like they were at a crime scene. The fairy tale reception had morphed into a public takedown. Jason stared blankly at his new in-laws. "My parents. They're really criminals." "They are," I said. "The restaurant is a front. They've been laundering money for years." Margaret tried once more. "Robert, please, can't we talk privately? Like when you privately replaced me as Emily's father." I gave a cold smile. "No, Margaret, this conversation belongs right here in front of the people who witnessed your charade." Emily looked up, tears staining her makeup. "Dad, I'm sorry. I said awful things to you. You were misled by con artists. Sweetheart, you couldn't have known." Richard, who had walked my daughter down the aisle, now stood revealed as a crook. Margaret, once the doting mother, shown for who she really was. The guests' business peers, friends, neighbors watched the entire collapse. Emily began to gather the scattered pages. What do we do now? Now, I said, watching the Thompsons unravel, we let justice do its part. The ballroom buzzed conversations, photos, reputations crumbling. The envelope had been opened. The bomb had gone off. And the Thompsons were finally getting what they deserved. 5 days later, Emily showed up at my door, tears streaming, arms full of luxury gifts. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I was awful to you." She sank into the living room chair, still in designer clothes, but somehow looking smaller. The diamond earrings Margaret gave her sparkled like physical guilt. "You're my daughter, Emily. I'll always love you. Now you understand the difference between love and manipulation." She wiped her eyes. "I brought everything back. The clothes, the jewelry. The bags, I can't keep any of it now that I know what paid for it." She unpacked it all on my coffee table, thousands of dollars in bribes to secure her loyalty. The diamond bracelet Richard had presented, the handbag Margaret insisted she needed, all of it poisoned now by truth. "How can you forgive me after everything I said?" "Because real love doesn't come with a price tag. That's something the Thompsons will never understand." She picked up a framed photo, her mother holding her as a baby. "I wish Mom were here. She would have seen through them, wouldn't she? Your mom always believed the priciest gifts often come with the highest cost." The heiress raided the restaurant yesterday, Emily said. "They took boxes of paperwork. Richard called me, but I couldn't answer." I nodded. The investigation was moving fast. "Good. Now they'll face real consequences." Emily looked me in the eye. "You could have just told me what they were. Why didn't you? Would you have believed me without proof? Or would I have seemed like the jealous father out to ruin your happiness?" She paused. "I would have chosen them anyway, because of the money." Her voice cracked. "But now I know why you always said some things can't be bought." We spent the rest of the day flipping through old photo albums, Emily's childhood, vacations on a budget, birthdays in our small yard, not extravagant, but real. "I want a real blessing," she said as we closed the final album. "Just us, maybe a few close friends, simple. Honest, I'd love that." Jason's devastated. He had no idea. "We're thinking of moving, starting over. That might be for the best." She packed the designer goods into shopping bags. "I'll donate them. Someone should benefit. Your mother would be proud of that." Before leaving, she hugged me tightly. "I'm sorry it took a scandal to show me what I already had. The important thing is you know now. Will you walk me down the aisle at my real ceremony?" "It would be my honor." After she left, I sat in the quiet living room surrounded by memories. The designer goods were gone, replaced by something priceless: Emily's love and trust. This time honestly earned. My phone rang. "Stephen Clark. Bob. Seen the news. Thompson's fine dining is finished. IRS has enough to charge them. Tax fraud. Money laundering, the works. They're looking at real time. Good. The paper wants an interview. Father exposes criminal in-laws to save daughter. Interested." I looked at the mantel, Margaret's photo beside our old family album. "No thanks, Stephen. Some wins don't need the spotlight." I hung up and turned back to the photo albums. In a few weeks, Emily would have the blessing she deserved: simple, sincere, and real. Everything the Thompsons, wedding WS and single quotes T. outside. Spokane was shifting into summer season of renewal. My phone buzzed. A message from Emily. "Thank you for loving me enough to tell the truth, even when it hurt." I smiled, set the phone down. Justice was done. My daughter was safe. And that was more than enough.